Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, hello, my beautiful people, and welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and today we are diving into another powerful episode in our series of Living Life Abundantly. This month, we are exploring how abundance can be woven into every aspect of our lives. And today's episode is all about the resilience it takes to pursue our dreams, and even when we face with obstacles. I am so thrilled to introduce today's guest, the incredible Roni Robbins. Roni is an award-winning author, a journalist, and her journey to where she is today is nothing short of inspiring. She's faced challenges, both professional and personal, and yet her resilience has driven her to tell meaningful stories that have kept her moving forward. And we'll discuss her path to publishing and the impact of her family history on her perspective and how she has used her storytelling to foster resilience and empower others. But before we bring Roni to the stage, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get deep into this conversation. All right. It's your girl, goddess, Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. And we'll be right back. Hey, it's your girl, goddess, Nyomi Banks. And make sure you tune in every Thursday night to Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast, where we talk about everything from love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more. We're bridging the gap between them all. And we even talk about spiritual uplifting. You need to stop by. Me and Dr. Mike, as well as the BTG crew. We have some amazing guests that come through. You never know. Just make sure you tune in Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to xnyomi.com and tell them Nyomi sent you.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good, so I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
All right, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and today we're talking about pursuing your dreams, resilience, and abundance with Miss Roni Robbins. Hi, Miss Robbie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And I said Robbie, and it's Roni. Roni.
Yes, it's an easy fix.
Great. So what I want to do is, before we really get into all that you do and hear your incredible story, we take a nice little guided meditation where we kind of center ourselves before we get into the topic. All right?
Sure.
All right. So if my listeners right now, wherever you are at this moment in time, you just soften your gaze or close your eyes at this moment. All right? Take a deep breath in. Now slowly exhale out. As you continue to breathe deeply, I want you to visualize yourself pursuing your dreams with clarity, resilience, and abundance. Take a deep breath in through your nose again, then slowly exhale through your mouth. I want you to imagine that each breath filling you with strength and confidence to face any challenges along the way. Now I want you to inhale deeply, resilience, and I want you to exhale doubt. Let yourself feel open to possibilities. Filled with determination and ready to embrace your dreams. I want you to take one more deep breath in. And when you are ready, gently open your eyes and bring your awareness back to the present moment. All right, my beautiful people, well, thank you for sharing this moment with me. And if you're new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, it's something that we do every day, Monday through Friday, to help ground us before we get into the topic at hand, to center ourselves. So, Ms. Roni, I am really honored to be here. I was, reading your profile, on your story, and how did you get into it? Your journey of publishing and writing your story and all of that. How did you get into it? What is it all about? What is Roni all about? Let's dive into that.
So, what is Roni all about? By the way, that was very relaxing.
Thank you.
And we don't take enough time in our day to breathe in and breathe out. And to get ourselves motivated for the day. I probably could use some help with that, just to slow down a little bit and take some breaths. So thank you for that. So my journey began in New York, Long Island, and I studied journalism. At some point, I discovered that I like to write. I liked how words strung themselves together and made people feel. I enjoyed English class. I just really liked everything about writing, physically, the writing. I did calligraphy. I did poetry. I wrote lyrics. I really just loved words. So I pursued journalism because it was a way to make a living as a writer. And I didn't know any other way. I wasn't thinking, to be any other kind of writer, but one who does it on a daily basis and puts things out there and people read it and move on to the next. I wasn't thinking big, huge, I wasn't thinking novel at that point, becoming a novelist at that point. I was just training to be a journalist. I started in high school. Somebody had suggested it as a career. I thought that was a good idea. I pursued it. I wrote the opening copy to my school yearbook and gained recognition that way. I actually wrote the graduation brochure, or I get commencement program for my high school graduation. They allowed me to put poetry on the cover. So I was already gaining some recognition in that. And I went to journalism school. In South Carolina from New York, which is odd, but that's just so much of who I am, is just to experience different sides of life, different sections of the country, north to south. So I was definitely out of my element, but enjoying being different from everyone else who went there. I got a scholarship for journalism to go there. I worked my way up the school newspaper to become editor of the school newspaper in my senior year. So things were progressing, really as they should. And I worked in journalism, daily newspapering, and then I got into weekly and specialty, and healthcare is what I do now. I'm a healthcare reporter for my local newspaper and also for Medscape WebMD, which is global. And so I also have a business background. So I write about the business of healthcare for Medscape, where I was an editor up until about a year ago. I got downsized, as media do. As media folks many of us have gone through the downsizing, the attempts to continue to be a publication in a difficult economic climate. And about 20 years ago, I started writing a book. At the first time that I stayed home and was work from home, wasn't as accepted back then, but I was raising my children. I decided I couldn't be a full-time journalist, so I stayed at home raising my children, writing freelance stories, and they ended up getting in some pretty big publications. So it actually worked out well for me. I had stories that were picked up by Forbes and Huffington Post. I was freelancing for New York Daily News and WebMD. So my life has really been worked out well. It just logically, it's worked out well. Taking small steps to get to where I am now. And, while staying home with my children and coming out of full-time journalism, I started writing this book. My grandfather had left cassette tapes of his life to my mom and to my family, some members of the family. And at first I just wrote a column for a newspaper I was working for at the time. And when I decided to stay home with my kids, because I wasn't being a really good mom or a really good journalist, I wasn't giving it all, certainly, to being a mom. And so I came home and I started transcribing the tapes and made it a point to say, I'm going to put this into a book and see what happens. I knew there was enough material for it, and I just kept trying to work on it. So it took me a very long time. And I also was very afraid of, I had cold feet a lot as somebody moving from something that I knew, journalism. I knew I could get published that way, but this was a whole new arena, and I was a lot nervous about it. And I got a lot of rejections, but I kept pursuing it. And after much work, and I did win some awards along the way, and my first publisher dropped me after 2 years, so there was still some challenges to be met, some legal concerns about who might sue me within my own family. And but in 2022, so about 2 or 3 years ago, I was published, and I've won more awards, and I've talked about the book in all over the country. Well, in several states in the country, different areas of the country. And I continue to market the book as I'm doing right now.
Beautiful. So as I'm listening to you and, I'm reading, your profile in my head, I'm just remembering some of the things that I already had. And, there's some of the setbacks that you have had. You hadn't said them all here, but even with you saying about possibly some of the lawsuits from the family members, from you writing the book like that, from there, how were you able to keep going despite those? How were you able to go, even though now you have the awards, now you have the awards, but before that, how were you able to get through? How was you able to get through to get to this point?
And remember, I had rejections. I would have thought I had 200 rejections because I kept all of them, printed them out if they were on the computer. Some of them were, this was early on in technology 20 years ago. So some of them were actually mailed. I mailed the manuscript. They mailed back a rejection letter. And can you imagine how many didn't even respond? So I thought I had 200 rejections, but I counted them one day. I kept every piece of mail. So or email. So it was actually 50. So that's still a lot. That's still a lot. That's people telling you you're never, I'm not interested. They never were sort of like, this is horrible, but it was just a nice way to say they're not interested. Right. They're not interested. It doesn't meet the needs. I heard immigrant stories are overdone. I heard a bunch of things. Sometimes I'd hear that. That was probably the most common. No one wants to read an immigrant story. You go tell that to all of the authors that are publishing immigrant stories that people love. I could have given up. Yes, I could have given up. But I was also doing two other things at the same time. I was busy raising my children, and I was also freelancing. So I knew that I still had that backup. I gave up so many times, and then And then I would be drawn back in to say, I'll try one more thing. I'll just try this. I'll just try that. And then I got lucky. Towards the end, I just got lucky. I had a cousin recommend me to her publisher. That was my first publisher. And even though she dropped me, and that was hugely depressing after working so hard to get a publisher and her to drop me, very, very depressing. But it was 6 months and I managed to find another one. Somebody else said, this is a publisher. I see that this publisher is publishing others that are in your genre. So maybe try them. So I tried and they liked me and they said they weren't worried about, she wasn't worried about me being sued. This time around, that wasn't something that was going to hold her back. So maybe a more experienced publisher who felt more confident about suits and how hard they are. It's hard. It takes a lot of money to sue somebody. Anyway, I managed to get through that. So yes. So, and again, my career too, how was I ever going to get back into full-time journalism? We hear, for those who are mothers, once you leave, your career, it's very little chance you'll get back into your career. That's what I heard for so many years, that once you leave, you're not going back in. So I didn't know what the chances of that were either. I managed to work myself back in. So I would just say God is wonderful to me. I have a nice relationship with God. He seems to be guiding me, and I have to say things work out for a reason. They work out when they're supposed to work out. Maybe I wasn't ready then when I needed to get through raising my children. That shouldn't be the time that I should focus on being a published author, because it would just take away from my kids. If you ask them, they will tell you I didn't have time for them anyway. They didn't know all that time that I was home with them. They only see that since they've been grown enough to be out of school and needing me for different things, I wasn't always there for them. So because I was building my career back. And also getting this book published. So, they didn't see the 20 years that I stayed at home with them. They were too little to appreciate it. But regardless, you'll hear a lot of people, there's a lot of self-talk in your mind. You're hearing these things, women are not getting back into their careers after taking off. How many rejections do you get and you just give up? So most people will give up. And I just not that kind of personality, I guess, to give up. I mean, I'm pretty determined and persistent. And I think I got that from family, because my grandfather in the story it shows resilience in all the hardships that he had to go through, whether it's health or financial or anti-Semitism. And he didn't let that, draw him down. He managed to have a fulfilling life, and maybe he's recognized even more than he thought he was. In maybe he's proud of me, for having written his story, but he had a lot to be proud of that I don't know that a lot of people knew. When you start tabulating all the changes, all the influences you have, all the hardships that you go through and survive. We all have our stories, even the everyday person, grandparent that you might ignore most of your life and say, oh, well, yeah, he may have some Holocaust in his background, but what did he really go through? What is it really that they went through? So that we would have a better life. When you start digging into that, you start learning a lot about yourself and realizing who you are is really tied in with who they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with you writing that book and writing that piece, that's a part of your heritage, but also that is the connection that you have. That is that stream of that connection, because you all have a similarity in that resilience in the story of you writing that book for 20 years and going through all of those things that you going through. So even in you writing, he's showing you how to overcome those different things. Does that make sense?
I wouldn't have looked at it like that, but I would have liked that we could have sped things up a little bit. But God has a plan, you know. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that my second publisher is a much more communicative person than my first publisher, and
Yeah.
has done a lot for me. And I'm part of such a beautiful community of authors through. I might what would the what would I have gained from continuing with the first
Exactly.
publisher? So, but I don't know that. I did not know that. I didn't think there was a future for me in my career, in my in my, you know, in trying to get this book published. I didn't know that I would ever get it published. I was going to try periodically,
Right.
and to, you know, and I could have self-published all the way along, remember, because self-publishing wasn't as popular as it was back then. There was still this negative about the
Yeah.
self-publishing back when, just like there was negative about staying home and working from home. Now, you know, COVID brought all that out of, you know, knocked all of that out of us. So there's a lot that's accepted now. And a lot of great writers have emerged even from just being online. So, you know, without publishers. So, you know, you can get a platform any which way you want. Yeah, I wish there were clearer signs along the way so we wouldn't be so down on ourselves when we don't achieve things as fast as we would like to.
You know, it's funny right now. I'm reading this book right now. I'm listening to it on Audible. Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor, and it's an amazing book. And I'm actually doing a challenge right now. We're currently in a challenge almost to the end. With my listeners, a 10-day book challenge. Yes, that every day, once we listen to it every day or read it every day, and I have a different prompt every day. But a lot of times we do have what we do self-talk, and it's all about changing that mindset. And I love the way that he talks about inside out or upside down, the way that we think, our thought pattern of things. And when you speak and talk about I wish that it would have came this way. What if it was meant to come the way that it was supposed to come? Because you're supposed to think outside of the box. You're supposed to think
Correct.
inside out instead of outside in. So you're thinking about the physical rather than the spiritual. Does that make sense? You know, so now you're more connected with your grandfather, thinking more on the spiritual realm of it than going on the outside of it. I mean,
So
that's just
hard to see things like that. It is so hard to be patient, and you know, you have these dreams, and how do you make your dreams happen? You know, it's baby steps. You know, but to say that my journey has been 20 years, you know, on and off is, you know, it's frustrating, and probably it shouldn't have taken that long, but that's how long it took.
right.
So,
But this is where you sit in gratitude, because not
yeah,
only are you
yes.
awarding with it. So when you sit on platforms, whether it's mine or whatever platform, this is where that voices should be loud and that hands of gold should be like, hey, 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 where your voice is now, where your voice is now is your voice is a testimony, not only your voice, but your grandfather's voice. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
Because
yes.
his story was coming out of the ashes. You
Mhm.
understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Coming out of the ashes. In the 20 years that it took for you to write that book versus his ashes is
Yeah.
uncomparable. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Mhm.
So you coming with this book and you speaking, it's 2 years later, coming with this book and you being able to speak and say, we don't know who's listening to this podcast right
Right,
now. So the
right.
thing is that yes, it's 20 years and I'm still here. And
Mm,
the thing is, you're going to be able to write more books. More
mhm,
books. You're going to even be able to write them 50 letters that you thought was 200 letters. You're going to be able to write about that. That's the thing. You're
mhm,
going to be able to write about that. It's going to
mhm.
help some people. So not only that, but your grandfather and you are going to be helping a whole lot of people out there that's going to think that they're not going to be able to do it any kind of way. So what I'm telling you this is that even though you might not have got it that first year you were writing, or that second year, or the 10th year, or the 19th or 20th year, baby, I'm going to make sure you got it today.
Yes, yes. It actually took me 10 years to get published. It took me a while to write the book, and then the publishing took, longer because of the rejections, and so you can be discouraged by that. My grandfather had TB. He was told he was terminal at 27, and he lived till 87. And his wife had to be the breadwinner at a time that women were not a breadwinner. They went through a lot more than I still do. I mean, health is not an issue for me in that, thank God. But, to have that kind of thought, my rejections are nothing compared to being told that you're not going to live at that early an age because of a disease that there was no cure for it back then. He was a clinical trial patient for streptomycin, which is still helping people today. I mean, and TB, people forget, is the biggest killer, the largest infectious disease killer in the world. Not COVID. But we still have our TB today, and we still have COVID today. And but what that generation went through was much harder than anything we might whine about today. So I have no reason to give up. If my grandfather, could have given up, he had 5 children. How's he going to support 5 children when he's in and out of rehabilitation? And my grandmother stepped in, and you do what you have to do. And that generation they were on welfare a little bit at the time, but that they did what they had to do to make a life for themselves. And they came from a country that didn't appreciate them and didn't give them the rights that they would have in America. So they saw and they appreciated.
Yeah. But one thing is, I'm glad that you did write it. I'm glad that you kept going through with it, and that it's an honor that you're sitting on my platform, on our platform here, and you are speaking to my audience. But also, baby, you have to just sit in it with your hands held high, with your golden hands, because them hands are gold. That's
Yes, it is.
And you have to sit and you have to just say, really, you are of gratitude, even though you have been through all that you have been through too, as well as your grandfather. But also, you have to say it is worth it. It is worth it, and I am worthy of all of it. I am of all of it. Yeah.
Well, you can say that.
No, you can say that.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Yes, you can say that. With this platform, the Season of Self-Love is all about having an intimate relationship with yourself and understanding who you are. So when I do ask questions about your journey, and we're celebrating your wins, as well as we're celebrating those losses, because those losses that we do have, they're really not losses, they are lessons. So even in that journey that you have for 20 years, you've learned something. You've learned some amazing things that you can potentially teach your children and other people along the way. That's something that we don't think about. That's a whole different type of perspective that we've gotten from those things. The thing is, you had an upper hand, as well as your grandfather leaving those tapes for your mother. That's amazing. That's something that I wish that I had. My grandmother and my grandfather didn't leave anything like that for us. So that's something that we have to dig down to find those things out for ourselves and live for that. So for that, those are gifts that you were given, that you have to take with you and just be gracious and grateful for them. You understand what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also that God has been good to me in that I am very resilient. I do things that other people don't do. And maybe I do that on purpose. Maybe that's a purposeful thing that I do. When other people say, I can't do that, I say, let me add it. Or when other people say, so I just heard last night, somebody goes, I'm too old to write a book. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm going to write another one. I'm middle-aged. I'm writing another one. It's not going to, age is not going to stop me from doing that. It's going to hopefully quicker than the first one, but a little bit more confidence along the way. It takes confidence. I didn't always have confidence. I didn't grow up with a lot of confidence. I was shy. My high school friends would say I was quiet and shy and studious, and smart. So I don't know how much of that is true, but I did well in school. I studied. I knew how to pass the tests. And I pushed myself real hard, and harder than I don't know how. I guess I push myself hard now still too, because I'm writing for 2 publications, and I had we say chutzpah. I had the chutzpah to go back to my former employer and say, you rejected me, but can I come back? Can I still write for you? Can we see how this might work? And 6 months, again, 6 months seems to be the magical number, but time period. But 6 months later, I asked, how long before I can write for you again? And they said 6 months. So 6 months later, I'm tapping on the door and saying, hey, it's been 6 months. Can I write for you? And they said, okay, we'll have you write for us. Yes. So it's just a matter of having a little bit of, feeling confident enough in yourself and not, and taking the risks. And being a little humble about it. The ego has to take a back seat. Put the ego aside. Yes, you're hurt. Yes, you got fired, or, we're not fired, but it's the same concept. I got severance, so I guess it's not fired, but take some chances, I guess, to put yourself back out there. And I feel like I don't have a lot of downtime to think too hard about, to think about the negatives, because I just have too much work to do. Keeps you going, for sure. Keeps my mom going after losing her husband. I think keeping busy is like the biggest thing with any thing that can bring you down.
Yeah. For you, this month we're talking about living life abundantly. For you, what does abundance mean for you?
Oh gosh, that's a lot. It would be really nice if my book took off, and that would be an abundance of financially. But since I've invested so much into it, but that's not the answer that you want to hear.
But that's your answer. No, I want to know what your answer is.
My abundance is that I accomplished something, and I get a lot of positive feedback from people who've read the book and relate to the book and like the book. So I would say, even though it's not maintained bestseller, it's been a bestseller on Amazon lists, certain lists, periodically up there in the top 20, 15, maybe. But it doesn't stay there long. So, and financially, I haven't recouped what I invested and continue to invest in it. But the reaction from those who read it and enjoy it and learn something and relate to something, and them telling me that that means so much, because I've dedicated my whole career to being a writer. And for somebody to say, you're a good writer, that still means so much to me. I have a huge ego. So, financially is not really ever what I was searching for. It always has been to feel fulfilled. So abundance to me is just that I feel like I'm on the top of my game, and I've worked hard to be there. And being recognized for that feels like abundance for me, an abundance of support, an abundance of confirmation that what I'm doing is right, and that all my efforts are worthy, or were worth something.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Let me say this. There is no right or wrong to answer you for who you are. So if it does have to do with money and financial, we all need a little money and financial in our lives. You understand? So don't ever, especially if you ever come on my platform again, all I want is your authentic truth of it. You know, abundance come in many different forms. Yes, I love money too. you know, but I know the love that you do have for the book. You wouldn't have spent 20 years on the book for love. But then I also know when you are doing things for the love of it, I know how it gets for financial. You know, I'm in the same thing. I love to, this what I do, I love to do. But I know that there's a financial difficulties, of it. So I know all of that. But you just keep doing what you're doing. I think it's amazing. I'm going to order your book. I don't want it free. I'm going to
Thank you.
order your book.
Oh,
That's something that I do with my listeners is when they have a book, I will order it and it will go onto my reading list of things because
very
I'm
nice.
a forever what I say I'm a forever student. I'm always student, forever learning, but I'm always teaching too. So that's my whole
Yes,
thing. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So now, because we kind of winding down, where can
Oh,
my listeners get the book? Tell them all about it. Yeah.
all right. So they can get it on Amazon and everywhere that books are sold. So if they don't do Amazon, they can go to Goodreads or Target or Walmart or Books, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million. It's everywhere books are sold. You can just search around for it. It's also on my website. You can get to buy the book through my website, and you can learn all about me, all about my journalism, all about my background, all the backstory that went into the book. So RoniRobbins.com, you got to spell my name right, RoniRobbins.com, with all those good things at the beginning with the HTTPS and www, RoniRobbins.com. But Hands of Gold has been written about all over the country, and I still have some book talks. I'm lining up book talks. I could use some more opportunities for that for 2025. I just got back from LA. I've been to South Carolina, North Carolina, New York with the book. So I travel around when I can with the book, and just I welcome reviews. I welcome conversations with people who've read the book to contact me. It's all available on my website, and there's different questions for book clubs on there. So anything and everything you could ever want to know about me and my journey and my family is on there. I'm also all over social media with Facebook and X and LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok. I'm on all of those platforms. You'll find me either as Roni Robbins, Roni Kane Robbins, Kayne Robbins. My maiden name is my largest Facebook, or Hands of Gold also has its own Facebook and its own Facebook page. So I have a bunch of different Facebooks. So yeah, reach out to, keep in touch with me, however, and get more, as you say, I use this to get more hands of gold in golden hands.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Roni. Thank you. Thank you so much for just coming on this platform and just sharing your story, your wisdom, your insight. Really, as you were speaking and talking, and like I said, reading your platform and your story, I just said it was just so connected. It was just so connected and so aligned with your grandfather's story, just all of it. And I just truly hope that you truly did enjoy that whole 20-year journey of writing that book. Hopefully when you finish and you go, after we leave, you sit in it and you be like, okay, that's what Nyomi was talking about. You really feel it. And like, okay, now I
don't usually get that from hosts to tell, to analyze a little bit more and make me shake up my perspective, open my perspective. So thank you.
Yeah.
That was lovely.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. All right, my beautiful people. Well, let's do this. Let's take a moment to just recap some key takeaways from today's conversation. We discussed the importance of resilience. We also about pursuing the dreams of how storytelling can be a source of healing and empowerment. And then a role of self-love and living abundantly. Again, I want to thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. And I hope that it resonated with you. I invite you to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review and share this episode with someone who could benefit from Roni's story. And don't forget to join our 10-day. Well, actually, we are already in the midst of it. I'm debating if I'm going to do it again next month. But if you want to join my program, join the mailing list, and then we can maybe give you that information then. Yeah, maybe we can give you the information. Yeah. But together again, let's embrace resilience, abundance, and just incredible power of self-love. So until next time, remember that you are capable of greatness, and pursue your dreams boldly, and keep believing in yourself. Have an amazing day. Have a good one. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today, and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.